Inhale, just lengthen the spine and then just roll the shoulders back and down, keeping a good energy flow for the body. So the body is still and comfortable. Breath is rhythmic. Maybe placing the hands on the abdomen, taking a few long, slow, deep inhales and exhales. Mind is simply an observer. Observing the body and the breath. Just enjoy a few breaths here. Naturally, by turning inwards like this, the mind tends to be filled with a sense of peace. And appreciation. So these are the qualities of a yogic mindset. So I'll just very briefly run through the theme for today. The theme is a warm heart and a cool head. So when our awareness lifts and we become aware that we are energy, beings of light within a body, so the image of a soul here. Previous sessions we've gone into a lot of detail about this, and if you wish to catch any of the previous sessions that we've done, you can do on my YouTube channel. Nimisha will just put up a link in the chat box in a moment to the YouTube channel where you can catch previous episodes. So this can be done as a drop-in thing, but it's also, there's a link between each session as well. So if you wish to catch previous sessions, the link will be in the chat box to my YouTube channel. So what we've covered so far very essentially is we are spiritual beings, beings of light, playing a part through the body. This is the higher level of consciousness. And when we take time to connect to this space and this energy, we can turn upwards and actually draw power, draw energy from a very sacred space. This was what the second session was all about, is actually we have a space that we can draw energy from. And that energy today is all about using that energy. So if we're in a material awareness and our attention is drawn on the external all the time, what tends to happen is our energy becomes imbalanced or shifts. We end up with a really hot head and a cold heart. So sometimes shifting this energy back is lifting our awareness up to keep our hearts warm and our heads cool. So I'll start with a poem, and this poem is called Making the Path Easy. Making the Path Easy, Virtue. So today's poems are twin poems. So Nimisha's just going to put the image up, the art that goes with this poem. It's called Making Our Path Easy, or Making Our Journeys Easier. Virtue. Om Shanti. The highest and high way is to be led, not for a heavy head. The path is easy or hard. Do you look at situations or sit in the seat of liberation? So situation. When we are down here, the scenes can be colourful, dear. However, this is a rap where we can fall into a trap. First simply distracts, later ends up attracts. Always a question mark leads just to dark. Starts the question why in the head, going around only lie, or hurt in the heart only cry. Forget to see, lost in the branch of the tree. In the head just chaining, the mouth just complaining, in the heart just fainting, there's big needs for mating. Whisked away in a cart, falling into disheart. Now the seat of liberation, not wading through reeds, simply focused on the seed. Stable, strong, and true, free from the long view. Heads always cool, able to rule. Hearts always warm, able to weather any storm. Lives from the top, able to put a full stop. Keeps the mind busy, but also stops and remains easy. The greatest art is to be humble. One cannot be caught in a crumble or falling into a tumble. It's easy to give respect when there is self-respect. Give others the seat. In return, they bow down at your feet. Learn to live beyond. Make this the bond. Virtue is a flower. It also reveals power. Sarvo Gun Swarup. So this is a Hindi term which means being an embodiment of all virtue. Om Shanti. So this image represents this being of going to the root of the matter, going to the essence, finding our seat of liberation. So we briefly covered knowing that this is the home for the body. Then also there's a home for the soul, which is beyond the physical realms of time and space. And when we sit in meditation, the main practice of Raja Yoga is to go beyond this space or this home for the soul. And it's from this space that we're able to draw energy. This is known as our seat of liberation, beyond the physical, the material, the humdrummings of life. It just takes a moment and we can travel there with our thoughts. So this is what this image represents. When we go above and beyond, we're able to draw an energy from this space. And then this energy helps us to develop virtue. So this is what this first poem is about. And virtue is something that happens in the heart. The heart and the intellectual side, or the head, is actually all within the soul. The physical heart of the body pumps blood around the body, keeps the body warm. But to keep a warm heart, it's all about being with virtue. And virtue is like a flower, as you can see this image, and each petal of the of the flower represents a different virtue. So actually going home to this space is our space of purity, our space beyond any limited existence. Limited meaning things that change. This is the world of limits and change, whereas that world, our world beyond, the world of the soul, is a place that is unchanging. And spending time in that space allows us to draw a pure vibration which then feeds our soul conscious, our soul awareness, our soulful nature. Okay, brilliant. So we can take the image off. So just briefly going through the format of how this works. I'd share a poem, then I'd share some wisdom behind the poem, and then we'd do a breathing exercise, a gentle movement, or a meditation exercise. And then we'd do the same process again with another poem. Hopefully that should take about 45 minutes or so, and then at the end we always have time for questions and answers or any comments you wish to make. So if while I'm speaking, if you wish to make a comment, the chat box is open for anybody to type chats in, or so if you want to make any statements or ask questions, the chat box is there. And I encourage you to do this because If you have a thought that comes in mind and you need to get it down, get it down, and we can always come back to it later. So it's important to have this aspect of asking questions or making comments, because then we're making things personal and relevant to ourselves. Because information is one thing, but then actually to make that information a part of me, which is the third part of the subjects of Raj Yoga, which is dharana, to imbibe, to understand, to actually make it a part of ourselves. So I do encourage you to write in the chat box, ask questions if you need to, or make statements, and we'll have time at the end to go through that as well. Okay, so this poem itself is all about the pure energy we draw from this space beyond time and space, the home of the soul. How do we use that? Because it's this energy that keeps the heart warm and the head cool. If the heart becomes cold and the head becomes hot, which is the shift of the energy, what happens is we've actually made this physical realm, this material realm, our support. And if our supports on the physical realm change, then I shake. I'm at the mercy of the change. My emotions fluctuate up and down because of this. But whereas if that world beyond, this subtle world, this soul world, as we are souls, becomes our support, and it's a healthy support. It's a place of safety and security, and I can go there whenever I wish. And then my mindset becomes stable. Whatever I may be going through on a physical level, my heart stays warm and my head stays cool. So this session is all about looking at the quality of a warm heart and a cool head. So making the path easy virtue is all about keeping the heart warm. So by going upwards, we draw this energy, and this energy we use to develop virtue. So there are 5 main virtues, innate virtues that we use on an internal level. And then these virtues then can be expressed in an external level afterwards. So we'll just go through each one of these virtues very quickly. As you see, this image of a flower, when it's connected to our seat of liberation, is connected to the seed, and the seed itself is divinity. This is the image of the soul, but it's also the image of a divine being. So basically, the first quality is when we draw energy from this space is purity. Purity is known as the center. It's not a petal. It's not the treasures of the flower, but it's actually the center, the foundation. And when our foundation of purity is there, that creates the opening of this flower. The first petal of the flower is the petal of peace. Peace is Om Shanti. It is our original nature. So when we turn inwards, the first experience that comes is peace. When our hearts and our heads are aligned, the experiences of peace. The second petal is known as bliss. Bliss is the internal sheer joy of happiness, of joy. So the inner feeling of just the sheer happiness of being a living being, being alive, being able to have the capacity to think, to feel, to interact. This is bliss. The next virtue on our list, when we have bliss and when we have peace, is love. Now, love is a very powerful emotion. There are many interpretations of love out there. So I'm just talking very quickly about the external expression of each one of these virtues. So for peace, the external expression is calmness and also patience. Bliss is the internal. The external expression of it is happiness and joy. Love, the internal. The external expression of love is acceptance. If I were to put love down as one word, or a definition for that, it would be acceptance. But love in itself is it's a really interesting thing, where Pure love is all about actually giving space as well. If we get too attached or we love too much, then that actually is a doorway to creating vice or to creating negativities or vulnerabilities in ourselves. So, for example, if I love myself too much, rather than just having a certain level of love, if I love myself too much, it becomes ego. And then I have an arrogance about myself. If I love another body too much, what happens then is it becomes a lust, a desire, and we're unable to let go of our desires and lusts or negative tendencies. If we love a possession or a commodity too much, what it ends up becoming is greed. I must eat this particular type of food, and this is the only way I need to. Yeah, we can go into all sorts of different patterns of thinking that way. So we love a commodity too much, it becomes greed. And then if these needs are met, it can become a false right, a right where we feel like these are our expectations that must be met all the time. So what happens is we start forming attachments to a particular type of lifestyle. So when change comes, we're at the mercy of the change. And then finally, if our needs are not met, our desires are not met, what happens then? It can come out in the form of disappointment, sadness, or anger, which is the other vice. So these are those 5 vices that if we love too much, ego, lust, anger, greed, attachment comes about, which draws us into the material realm rather than actually maintaining a connection to our inner world and our inner self. So just observe for yourself, is there any space where I'm loving too much? I'm not giving space. So pure love is where we have space, where we accept. And the practice to be able to not love too much and to give space actually comes by making that connection upwards. So firstly, I, the soul, a resident of that supreme region above. And if this is my awareness, this is my point of view, everything down here, my safety and security is there. Everything down here changes, fluctuates. It's like watching a drama or being on a ride, being on a journey. If you're aware of your safety, let's say if you go on a roller coaster, some people love the thrill of going on a roller coaster. If you're aware of your safety, then you can enjoy it. But if you're not aware of your safety, if you're not aware of the bigger picture, then we feel that this is the only place of existence for us. And there are our emotions, our nature goes up and down, our moods go up and down with the roller coasters of life. If we start looking for these virtues, peace, power. Oh, sorry, I haven't mentioned the petal of power. So the petal of power is the final petal on our little flower. The petal of power is all about being able to put into practice what we have a value for. It's being able to, we know the theory of spirituality, but how much can we put that into practice? How much can we become the embodiment of that? And that requires a level of power. Power in terms of willpower. Power in terms of maintaining our dignity when we are faced with challenges. And that develops a level of character strengths, which we'll talk about in the second poem. So power is one thing. So the center is purity. And then pure peace is the first petal. The next petal is pure bliss. And what makes it impure is when we start searching for this on the external. Like in a job, I want a job to gain power, or I need a job to earn money to make me feel happier, to make me feel secure. I want this particular relationship to feel loved, or to feel love. All these things, if we search for virtue on an external level, where it changes, we're riding a roller coaster that's going up and down. So our love is not pure. Our peace is temporary. Our power is also temporary, and when it changes, we're at the mercy of the change. However, when we turn inwards to find peace, when we turn inwards to find power, when we turn inwards to find love, what happens then is a pure experience. So purity is the foundation. Pure love means acceptance. Pure peace is patience. Pure power is simply maintaining my self-respect and dignity. So this is the first poem. So we're just going to do a little breathing exercise to go with this. And this breathing exercise, there's a number of gestures with some gentle movement and breathing. So this ability to turn upwards allows us to draw pure energy, which then we can feed into peace, which we can feed into bliss, which we can feed into power, which we can feed into love. So to start off with, just placing the hands next to the body. When we breathe, there's actually three ways we breathe. We breathe outwards, backwards, and sidewards. So these breathing exercises also helps to develop the way the lungs work. The lungs don't just work this way, they work this way and this way. It's like a 3D movement. So placing the hands next to the body. As we inhale, we're just going to bring the arms up, opening the side body, bringing air into the side. And then as we exhale, just bringing the hands down to heart center. So this is the first gesture. It also means inhaling, arms come wide and overhead, maybe taking the vision point to the thumbs. And then as we exhale, bringing the hands through heart center, thumbs rest at the forehead for a moment, and then rest at the heart. So these are the 2 points to keep warm and cool. Inhale, arms come wide and overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Taking one more breath, inhaling. And then exhaling. So this gesture just simply represents drawing energy from beyond to keep our hearts warm. Our next gesture is basically opening the chest, opening the heart center to keep the heart warm. So it's all about keeping an open heart. So this flower opening, this virtue opening, is an opening of the heart. So we're just going to place the hands in front of us like so, palms facing towards each other. So as the heart opens, we're going to bring internally rotate, palms facing to the outside. So as we inhale, arms come out to the side, opening the chest, maybe taking the gaze upwards. And then as we exhale, bringing the arms back together, just facing each other. Inhaling, and then exhaling. Moving with your own breath, but slowing the breath down as much as possible, inhaling, and then exhaling. Final time, inhaling, and then exhaling. And then just relax the arms down, come back to normal breathing. Final gesture is once we are centered in our center of purity, bliss, peace, love, power is coming from a pure space where it's not dependent on the external. So then what we become is we become altruistic and natural givers. A natural giver is one that gives regardless of the conditions. Whereas if our bliss, peace, power is all based on the external, it's all based on conditional. So our love is based on conditional things. Whereas if it is coming from an internal space, then there is no condition. We just naturally give. So this final gesture is all about using that warm heart to be a natural giver. Once again, just moving with the breath. So bringing the hands to the heart center. And then from here, as we inhale, the arms are going to come diagonally out towards the side, open to giving. And then as we exhale, bringing the hands back to heart center. Inhaling, arms coming wide, gazing up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, hands come back to the heart center. So a few more times in your own breath. Inhaling. And then exhaling. Inhaling. And then exhaling. Final breath. Inhaling. And then exhaling. So the other final point from this particular poem is all about humility. There was something I learned very useful lesson I learned this morning actually, was only really great souls can afford to be humble, but also your humility is linked to your level of creativity and resourcefulness. So this gesture in itself is a gesture of acknowledgement. It's a gesture that says, I acknowledge you. The life in me, or the soul, acknowledges the life in you. And there's namaste. The life in me acknowledges the life in you. It's also a sign of humility. Where one is so full inside from that non-physical space that one does not need to prove himself in any way at all. So this is humility, and now your humility is linked to your level of creativity. Because when you're humble, you're open. The heart is open. Okay, so we'll move on to the next poem. So Nimisha's just going to put up the artwork for this poem. So linking with the petal of power. Because in our lives, we actually face a lot of challenges and a lot of tests. And in order to meet these tests and at a stage of being restful, we have to have a level of character strengths. So each one of these little sparkly stars in this image represents a character strength, which we'll go through. But I'll read the poem to begin with. So this poem, it's like a twin poem to the last one. It's called Making the Path Easy, Power. Om Shanti. The highest on high path is not for the faint of heart. It can be easy or hard. This is down to your guard. The hard path. Only hard because of weakness. This creates a leak. Then we start to seek out there or even nowhere. The question why makes us cry, lose sight, even lie. Pull up our socks and start breaking the rocks over and over until we are only in the head, becoming spiritually dead. Now comes the attack of the heart, where we wake up and start or stall with a big fall into disheartenment. However, to make it easy, never fear, the divine is here, says there is another way. It's all about your lightness, not your labor. Take that emotion that may be filled with devotion, put it in a pot, let it rot, no more your lot. Take those expansions into the essence. This is the number one lesson. Just remember Bap, the Father. Let him remove the Bap, sin, sitting in his lap. No need to be queasy, just make it easy. Jump over the rocks, understand this drama's plot. You are an emperor seated on a throne. Don't become prone. Accept every part. This is the true art. To become spiritually smart. Remember, you have power. Protected within this high tower. Sarvo Shaktivan. So this term, Sarvo Shaktivan, means an embodiment of all power. So when we develop this soul awareness within ourselves, we actually develop character strengths to deal with people that may be unreasonable or situations that just feel like it's unjust. So we'll just go through these character strengths very quickly. The first one is known as the power or the character strength to withdraw. Like a tortoise that's under attack, what it does to protect itself, it just draws itself into its shell. So in the same way, if we're in a situation where people are hurling abuse at us, or we're in a challenging place, can I have this ability to turn inwards to protect myself from taking on any hurt? Giving sorrow is one thing, but in order to protect myself, I have to be thick-skinned sometimes, or to have my own shell where I do not take on sorrow. So we all know not to give sorrow, but sometimes in the world, do we know that we have the choice to take sorrow on or not? So if somebody's hurling abuse, we can actually say, no, thank you. This is not for me. Sometimes when we're criticized, we take sorrow on, and that is just as damaging. So learning not to take sorrow is this character strength of the power to withdraw. So that's turning inwards, almost like sense withdrawal, removing, like, listen but not listen, see but not see, hear but not hear. And the reason why we're not here is not because we're getting into the gossip, but it's mainly to maintain our own lightness, maintain our own innocence. It's more for protecting ourselves. So a wise person would help somebody maybe to take an illness out here, but then they'll forget. You only hold on to what's useful. If we hold on to somebody else's baggage or burden, we feel burdened by it as well. So this ability to forget is actually a very important part of the soul. This is linked to the memory track, which is the third faculty of the soul, which we may cover in another session or another time. So the next power is the power to let go, which you just covered very briefly. The character strength to be able to let go. So if we've had all this stuff that's come towards, firstly protecting ourselves is one thing, but then the ability to let go and not feel like a victim. If we feel like a victim, we've already given our power away to a situation or a particular person. So learning to let go is actually also our ability to turn upwards. So withdrawal is our ability to turn inwards, going into soul awareness and developing a peaceful nature. And then the next step is turning upwards, which is the ability to let go of whatever scenes that are happening down here in the material realm. When we turn upwards, we're actually connecting to our space of safety and security. Whereas everything down here changes, so we naturally would feel insecure. But down there, it's a natural. This space beyond time, beyond the physical realm. This soul world, this world of light. If that is our security and foundation, turning up there is the ability to let go. And then all the other 6, so there's 8 powers altogether. As you can see, there's 8 little stars in this image. We can probably put, could probably take the image down now. So the next power is the next 6 powers are all about turning outwards. So the first 2, one's about turning inwards and then turning upwards. And then when we do that, we're able to turn outwards with a cool head or a cool mind. So these character strengths are what's developed with a cool mind. The ability or the character strength to show tolerance. Tolerance is when we are being challenged to show patience. It means if people or situations are challenging us, we're able to not be reactive, maybe just to respond, or maybe just take a moment to step back. Maybe not even reacting is showing tolerance. Because sometimes it's like somebody's done this and I do this without a thought. So actually having that moment to step back is a moment of tolerance. Next, character strength. That goes with tolerance. So all the other character strengths go in pairs. So tolerance, and then the ability to adjust and accommodate. This is my ability to be open to compromise. This is my ability to be flexible. This is my ability to turn inwards and upwards. Allows me to actually have more of an easy nature. And when my nature is easy, I'm able to be a bit more flexible. I'm not rigid and stuck in my ways. My mind is open. So cool mind is also an open mind. An open heart is one thing, where the flower of virtue opens, but an open mind is another thing. The next two virtues or character strengths that are linked together is the ability to cooperate. So can I listen to somebody's point of view even if I don't agree with it? Do I have the respect to listen to somebody and not interrupt them? This is just simply showing respect, to be able to listen to somebody's point of view without actually showing any judgment, to be free from any judgment. Cooperation also means to work as a team with a number of people. So then a task that may be huge can be accomplished with relative ease by giving just a finger of cooperation to a cause. Power to show courage, or to face up to situations. Sometimes relationships may have gone bitter, or I'm in a situation where I feel like I just want to turn away and run. Can I stand firm and face situations that are in front of me? Can I be productive and send a peaceful vibration, or am I being affected, influenced by the situations of the world? So this is linking back to, do I sit in my seat of liberation, or do I get caught up in situation? If I get caught up in situation, my moods are going to do this. I fluctuate. Whereas if I'm seated in my seat of liberation, my safety and security, this space beyond, then whatever's happening on the physical realm, I'm always sending a productive, positive energy. Because my safety and security is not this space. This space beyond is my safety, is my security. So then I'm able to maintain a level of stability. And when I am able to remain stable, it actually becomes a support for people who are shaking around me. So this is courage. Sometimes courage means to look inwards, to really introspect and figure out what are the weaknesses or damaging tendencies within myself that I need to let go of. That also takes courage. And the final two character strengths that are linked together here is the ability to discern. Discernment is almost like an instinct that awakens within. It was really funny. It was a couple of days ago. I was asked, "Oh, you meditate? Do you gain superpowers by meditating? Can you become like a thought reader?" And I just I laughed it off at the time, saying, "Well, if you're looking to be that, you're probably not going to find it." But actually, what happens is when our mind is still and quiet, when we are clear with our own thoughts and feelings, another instinct within ourselves opens up. And this is known as the power to discern, to pick up vibrations. It's hard to explain. And the more, if ego comes about this, I know what you're thinking and what you're feeling, then what happens is our ability to discern diminishes. So discernment is also very much linked with humility, creativity, but also discernment. The more humble we remain, we may know, but we're so humble that we're able to help without any feelings of confrontation. It's almost like we're using a tactic, that we're aware of what's happening. However, we don't have to confront. We simply aid in the best manner that we can to help the situation. So it's learning to become tactful. And this is linked with the final character strength, which is making decisions for myself, or judgments, not judging others, but making judgments and decisions for myself and then sticking to them judgments and decisions that I've made for myself. So sometimes we give our power away to other people, think, oh, what's your advice on this? And we don't actually make a decision for ourselves. But when we show that level of conviction and make a decision for ourselves, then we can actually gain a lot more benefit from our own decisions, because it's a conscious choice for ourselves. We haven't given our power away to somebody else. So this is the wisdom behind that particular poem. It's hard when we see ourselves down here, or we give our power away. This creates a leakage in many different things, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a possession, or whatever it may be. However, to turn inwards and upwards allows us to draw strength and come from a place of absolute self-respect, absolute inner power. So nothing on the physical realm can actually shake us. But what happens to us though is we tend to forget. We forget about this space of safety and security beyond. And then when we forget, our bigger picture gets smaller, and we think this physical realm is the only space we exist. And because it's insecure, because it's ever changing, we fluctuate. So I keep coming back to this point and repeating it, because we have to remember that our space of belonging is not this physical world. Here is where we just come to play a part of experience, and we share our virtue. But our space of belonging is that space above and beyond. This is where we draw our ability to remain pure. Coming back to this analogy of a flower of virtue opening, when it's connected to its source, there's always a constant source of energy that's feeding it. So it's love, peace, power, bliss, comes from an internal space. But the moment that flower is plucked from the earth, what happens to the flower? The flower starts to deteriorate. And this is when we start looking for love, peace, power, bliss on the external. And it may be good for a while, but everything on the external changes. And as change comes, we are no longer in our seat of liberation. We are caught up in situation. So when we are caught up in situations, our mood goes up and down. We're unable to accept. This is what this final lesson is of purity. The soul connected to the soul world is a constant source of energy coming. If the soul is no longer connected there and gets too caught up on the physical realm, our love, peace, power, bliss is no longer pure. And when it's no longer pure, it gets caught up in the scenes. And then there's a leakage of energy. So many different places. This is the weakness. So character strength is developed. Head stays cool. Divine virtue, because the virtue is coming from a divine space. Divine, it's not just virtue. There are many people with virtue, it's divine virtue. And divine virtue is developed in the heart. So the heart stays warm, the head stays cool. So we'll just do another breathing exercise, and then heart warm, head cool. There's alignment between the two. So one more breathing exercise just to play with alignment, and then we'll do a meditation, and there's time for people to share or make comments or ask questions about what was shared today. So just bringing the hands next to the body, lengthening the spine, rolling the shoulders back and down, open posture. Placing the hands next to the body. As we inhale, taking the arms overhead. And then as we exhale, thumbs, the right thumb is going to come to the forehead, the left thumb is going to come to the heart center. And then inhale, grow tall again. And then exhale, bringing the hands together. So this is basically just creating harmony between our minds, our intellectual side, and our feelings, the heart, emotional side, or feeling side. So as we inhale, arms come wide and overhead. Exhale, right thumb to forehead, left thumb to heart. Inhale again, and then exhale, bringing the thumbs, palms together. So there's humility between the head and the heart. Inhale. Exhale. If you want to know, the right side of the brain is linked. So this is why the right thumb goes to the head, and the left thumb, the creative side, is linked to the left side of the brain. So this is why the left thumb goes to the heart. So exhale. Inhale, grow tall. And then exhale, bringing unity and balance between our heads and our hearts. One final breath, inhaling. Exhaling. Inhale, grow tall. And then exhale, hands and heart to come together. Inhale. And then exhale. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, hands and heart together. Just keeping the hands here for a moment and just coming back to a normal breathing. Just being aware of your own natural soulful nature. Your stage of humility. This develops your power to discern and also your creativity. Just enjoying a few breaths. So I'm just going to run through a gentle commentary here, a meditation commentary. You can keep your eyes open or close your eyes if you wish. Bringing the awareness inwards. Bring the awareness to the heart center, the Anahata chakra. And then as we inhale, bring the awareness up towards the third eye point. This is known as the Ajna chakra. So drawing our energy towards the center of the forehead. And just becoming soul aware. I, the soul, living being, the seed, residing within the body. Radiating energy. This is me turning inwards. And as a soul, I take a moment to turn upwards to my world, to my home. And it's this space of existence beyond the physical that is our home. I feel safe. I feel secure. I come in front of divinity. I come in front of the divine, whose energy is constantly giving, like the sun shining in all directions, a pure energy is received. And this energy allows me to keep a cool mind. This energy allows me to keep a warm heart. And I just stay in front of this energy, in front of the divine. Imbibing this divine virtue, which then ultimately helped me to develop my character strengths. The mind is still and focused, present. This develops our ability to discern. And then humility allows us to be creative. Om Shanti. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the session.